Hi, my name is Kelly Clement, Director of Sales here at MetaStock. In this video, I'll be talking to you about pattern analysis. As traders, we understand that pattern analysis is a critical part of trading. That's why in the new MetaStock Forecaster, we've added the ability for you to create and design your own patterns. So join me for a quick overview of the MetaStock Forecaster pattern editor and how you can design your own patterns. Here I'm looking at a chart of Walt Disney Company. And looking at the chart of Walt Disney Company, I can see that there's often these little reversal patterns where it'll drop and pivot back up. And I want to be able to analyze and forecast based off of these. Well, with the new pattern analyzer within the MetaStock Forecaster, you can. So what we can do is right-click, send this chart over to the Forecaster, and from there we're going to be able to either draw our own patterns or we're going to be able to copy a pattern directly from that chart. So let's start by drawing a pattern. We'll go into the Event Recognizer library, choose Draw New Pattern, and what we can do is quickly draw any pattern that we wanted to. For example, if I was looking for, say, a double top, I could draw a double top. Or if I was looking for a W pattern, we could draw a W pattern. But what we're going to start with here is just that reversal pattern. So let's go ahead and clear this out. I'm going to just draw a pivot shape, and let's say we want this to happen over approximately 8 bars. We can set a sensitivity of high, medium, or low. Let's do a low sensitivity, and let's call this our 8-bar reversal. So we can now modify this if we want to. I can just say if I wanted it to have this pattern at the end of it, or I can drag these back. I can undo pattern changes and put it back the way it was. So this is the type of pattern that I'm looking for. So an 8-bar, just a pivot reversal. Okay. If I wanted to, I could also do a quick pattern test and go through historically all the different lines of the chart and see how quickly they match. So here you can see we have about a 73% match. So it's showing me how successful my pattern can be on the chart data. So let's go ahead and save this. And then I rescan the selected analysis. We have Disney Company open again. And then I just look for my 8-bar reversal. So now we can see this happens quite a number of times. Again, I have it on a low sensitivity. It would change based off of medium or high. So now I can come in, I can look at my forecast cloud based off of this. And what does price tend to do after that 8-bar reversal pattern? Well, it tends to have an upward run anywhere from 0 up to about 45 days. And helping me so now I can use that pattern to help me gauge my trade based off of it. So we have quite a high probability that first 2 weeks that it'll go up about 2.5%, and then it gets a little bit lower out about 5% about 45 days out. So if I wanted to now, I can come over to Price, Volume, and Event Markers, hover over any of the patterns on the chart, and it will show me how well that pattern actually worked. So here we have number 53. This was on January 12th. And what we have is on the blue line, we have the pattern that I drew in that pattern editor. Here, then below it in the red, we have the chart pattern deviation. So here we have about a 78% match. So it's a very good match in what we have with our pattern. So if I select now this pattern, it will draw it on the chart based off of all the historical and probabilities using the past data and before. And what do we see? Well, it shows that same type of pattern rising up. But what happened here? It broke out of its deviation. And so what we'd say here is it's probably either going to continue down or pull back up into its probability zone. So this would be a high one to watch based off of that. Now we can go back historically and look at any of the previous ones and see how they've performed as well. And again, look at it using that high probability zone as support as it goes through. And when it finally broke through, it's continuing down. So definitely if this was a long trade, we would have stopped out at the bottom of that probability zone. So now if you saw a pattern on the same chart that you wanted to actually just copy out, instead of trying to draw it yourself, you can also copy patterns. So right here up at the top right-hand corner, you have the ability to select this user-defined pattern select. So I could come in and I could copy that pivot if I wanted to, Or let's say I'm really interested in this 5-bar drop down here at the end and what's happening right now. So I can select that, say yes, I want to capture this, and it will show me that bar drop pattern here. So it drops, had a slight rise, drop. Okay, well, I can modify that a little bit if I wanted to and change it a little bit or put it up or down, however you want to do it. But you can see it's about 5 bars. So let's call that my 5-bar drop pattern. Okay, again, I could go through, I can invert this as a rise if I wanted to. I could reverse the pattern. But let's go ahead and look at our 5-bar drop and see how often that happens on Disney. Now, if I do my pattern quick test here, you'll see that it actually matches perfectly because I selected it directly from the chart. So let's go ahead and save that, rescan our analysis, and now what it'll do is it'll go through and look for that 5-bar drop pattern on the chart. So you can see here, this is the pattern right as we copied it from the chart, and here's all the times that it's happened historically and had a very close match to it. Okay, so let's go ahead and forecast right here based off of that pattern. So again, we can just highlight right here. We can see that 5-bar drop right there. So what happens typically after this? Drop and a strong reversal up. Okay, so you can see that using pattern analysis on charts, whether it's 5 simple bars or if it's using a head and shoulders or double top, triple top, pivots, whatever type of pattern you're looking for can give you very strong analysis to help you move your trade to the next level. If we come over to the Event Recognizer library, you can see it will save all my patterns that can then be applied to any other chart. So let's say, for example, I opened up the Dow and wanted to see if the Dow had the 5-bar pattern drop. I could come over here to Forecast Analysis, open up a new analysis, and bring up the Dow, start the forecaster. And now what it'll do is it'll go through and look for that same pattern to be identified on the Dow. So we can see all the times that it's happened on the Dow. Now the Dow may react differently to that pattern, and that's why it's critical to look at the patterns on each individual chart to see how they are going to help you in the trading. I hope you find this new pattern analysis technology very useful in your trading, and I wish you successful trading.